Okay, so here we are together. Ready?
Yeah.
So today's topic, grief upon grief, it's something that is pretty heavy for us still. And we kind of, Shannon and Josh, and both Joshes, and we brainstormed, and this is one that kept popping in my head for this week. And so it was one that I kind of didn't want to, I kind of wanted to steer away from right now, but it just kept popping in my head, so here we are. So Lilli passed away August 26, 2017, and we had a dog named Blue. If you watched our stories or our posts, she was a silver lab. And the backstory on Blue is that our kids had always wanted a dog, and we were in school. Josh went to school for a long time, so we always were renting. We said to the kids, we're not getting a dog until we're finished renting. And then finally we were finished renting, but then Nelson, our youngest boy, he was still in diapers, and I said, there's no way I'm getting a puppy until he's potty trained. And so finally we ran out of excuses, and so we were going to take a trip to Utah for general conference, and that December, the Christmas before, we gave the kids like a kennel and everything you need for a dog. And so it was the end of March, beginning of April, we went down and we looked in ads, and we went and saw this little puppy, silver lab, and we all fell in love. And it was their dream. It was Lily's dream to have a dog for the longest time, and all of our other kids, and we were so happy. And I spent a lot of time, obviously, training, and the kids fell in love. I remember Lily and Izzy were the ones that always would fall asleep on her little bed with her, and it was so cute. And as she grew, Josh and I loved to take her hiking and running. That was one of our favorite things to do with her, because she just loved to run, and Josh loves to mountain bike, so she would just run when he would take her. And we just all loved her so much. And then she was a really good dog. She didn't have a lot of quirks, but she was really good. And so December, after Lily passed, we got her spayed. And that week she kind of was just, sleeping and stuff like that. But I kind of noticed that she was getting stiffer. It was hard for her to bend down to eat. And then we had our first dance scholarship on a Friday with Live Like Lilli, and oh my goodness, we were on cloud 9, and we were just high as ever, I guess you could say, on the happiness that comes from that. And we were supposed to go to another Christmas party, but we needed to come home and get a change of clothes or something. And so we came home, and Blue was there, and she was kind of frantic, and she couldn't get up because she couldn't use her back legs. And I went into hysterics basically, and Josh, I don't know, one of us called the vet, and he said, it sounds like you better get her to the ER, which I didn't even know there was an ER for dogs. Josh and I aren't, we love animals, but we aren't I guess.
Gotta tread carefully.
Yeah, I know. Well, before this happened, I never would have thought I would have done as much for a dog as I did, if that makes sense.
Well, I think animals are not family, but they might be kind of part of the family or involved with the family.
Yeah.
We recognize that for some people, animals are absolutely just as precious and whatever as other family members.
Yeah. So we took her to the ER, and they asked, has she been hit by a car? Because she had what was it called?
Shift Sherrington.
Oh, yeah. Shift Sherrington, where their front legs are really straight and rigid. Her eyes rolled back, and then the back legs were all flaccid. And we're like, no, she's just been in the house. I take her out to the bathroom, but that's it. And they couldn't really figure out what was wrong. She stayed there for the night. They didn't know if she would make it, and
well, she was septic.
Oh, she was septic. So it brought me down, because I was just like, it's only a couple months after Lily's passed away, and now our dog might die, and I never would have thought I would have felt like that with the dog. Guess I'm not, but I was so sad. It was heartbreaking for me and for all of us. And that night I really felt Lilli, and she said, "Mom, everything's going to be okay. She's going to make it." And I tried to have faith in that. And the next day, because it's pretty expensive to leave a dog in the ER, and so Josh knows how to do, what's it called?
Well, they placed an IV.
An IV, so he knows how to do that.
And we had some antibiotics at the office, and they were the same antibiotics that they were going to be giving to the dog. So the vet and I just talked, and he said, "You can go ahead and do what you're comfortable with." So I just delivered IV antibiotics to the dog for the next week.
Yeah, and she really couldn't do much. She just laid there, and so we had diapers and stuff for her and things like that. But little by little, she got her strength up, and she was able to sit, and then she was able to scooch a little bit, and eventually walk, or pull herself, because she didn't have her back legs. They were totally, she was paralyzed. And so we decided, okay, but then when you pinched her tail, the end of her tail, her feet would move. And so we had hope that, maybe she'll be able to get her full use of her legs again. So, and she didn't have any bladder control. And so what did we do it for a few months, where she had diapers, and there were accidents, and I would bathe her 3 times a day. And this is where it really got to the point of I would get so mad, and I'd get mad at Blue, and not that she could help it, but I was just mad because I was already hurting so bad from Lilli passing, and then Blue, have this happen to Blue. I was just mad. Why is this happening? I'm already hurting so much. Why do I need to have more hurt in my life? I was really, really mad. And do you want to say anything? Let's continue the story.
You just need to know, for me, this is really uncomfortable for me to talk about. I am still heartbroken over Blue. We tried to take care of her for 2 years.
It hurts a lot still. And
I put her down December 26th of last year. So from December 8th of 2017 to December 26th of 2019, we had a paralyzed dog that demanded an unbelievable and an inordinate amount of care, just in much like when you have a child that has some type of physical limitations or requires extra needs. Families who deal with that know that becomes their life, and that became our life, but it was something that we probably weren't fully prepared or willing to accept and give the attention that she fully needed. And
but she got to the point where she got so strong that, at first she would just walk around the block with her cart that we got her. We got her a wheelchair, and she didn't want to walk anywhere at first because it was this weird contraption on her. But she got to the point where she could go on runs with me. She got so strong in her front that she could go on runs with me. She went on, her longest run was what? With
14
you?
miles.
14 miles.
In the mountains.
She just loved to run, and so we wanted to do that. But
along with all of that,
yeah.
She had chronic sores on her feet and her legs. Every device that we could think of, every craft that we could find, every online
booty or whatever. We tried.
Would put it on her legs, and she would
bite it off,
eat them off, and
they'd
then
fall off.
She was so active still that she would just wear them out.
To the bone.
And literally she wore holes in her skin down to the bones. and got multiple recurrent infections, and it was something that was just hard, really hard,
And
very, very hard.
And we'd even say, like, after a bit, maybe a few months or 6 months, we should put her down. This is too hard. But it was just like I was just holding on to, like, this was Lily's dream to have a dog, and I was like, she's got to get better. Like, I feel like she will, and but it was hard. Like, I didn't want to cut the tie, I guess you could say, between her and Lily, and I was determined. I was really determined, and
Well, I think what happened is that you felt that she would walk and that she would get better, and then later I felt that same, and on multiple occasions we felt that she would, and probably for me that's where the biggest struggle for me, all these cycles we've talked about, depression and bargaining and denial, all these things, acceptance. We went through these with our dog, and
yeah, seriously,
in all of it, the most difficult part for me, and I think for you too, is that feeling that she would get better, but she would get better, and then she would just plateau, and then she would plunge, and then she would get better and plateau and plunge, and that cycle just hovered around her recurrent injuries. We could not keep her healed. We could not keep her.
Like, the only way we could have is if we put her in her cage and she didn't move. Like, that's the only. But then the thing is we get so much hope, because at first we have a video. I was just watching it today, and it just hurt me so bad.
Well,
but
she could walk.
She could.
She
like,
walked unassisted multiple times.
She did it, and then she would just, like, it was like all of a sudden it was just like gone. I'm like, where did that go? I don't, like. So we'd get this hope, and then this deep pit, and then a hope, and then a deep pit, and so it was a roller coaster, and it still hurts so bad to even, and it got to the point where it did hurt to look at her, because she was in, like, we tried for 2 years of trying, and she was probably worse than when she was.
Yeah, it's something that I'm probably still not really 100% at peace with.
Either.
I've got some questions in my mind and some things that I'm uncomfortable with, and probably the thing that maybe is the most uncomfortable is that, and many people would agree with me, I know for sure, that we should have put her down a long time ago, but we felt like we shouldn't. And then I, in my anger, chose to put her down at that time, just because I was exhausted and I was had zero hope that she would actually ever walk again. And so I took matters into my own hand and I put her down. And that for me has been hard, because once that was over, then that was final, and there was certainly no hope for the future, and that's something that still bothers me. But I'm okay. It's not going to destroy my life, but this is very.
It still hurts.
This is very uncomfortable for. I don't even like to talk about this, or even really. I just don't. It's a part of my life that I'm okay to just kind of close up and move on and not open it up, because it hurts a lot still.
Yeah, it does. Like, just looking at videos and pictures of, because we do physical therapy with her and walk around the yard pinching her tail, because it was like pinching her tail was what made her legs go. And so if you can imagine us doing that.
I'm sure our neighbors think that we're insane. If I was a neighbor and watched what we did over here for 2 years, I think that I would think they were insane.
But
We had the pound called on us multiple times from neighbors. Anyways.
We tried, and
Maybe
there's
the lesson for me, one of the lessons for me is that in this is that regardless of our circumstances and regardless of what does or does not happen, sometimes there are situations where we just, like with Lilli, I've felt 100% at peace very early on from the beginning because of the experiences and the feelings that I've had, and I've felt very, very motivated. This is something that I have not, I've felt yucky most of the time. I had periods of hope, but they were quickly followed by periods of faithlessness and despair and frustration and anger, and that's kind of where that one lasts. But even within that, I still have to recognize that there are lessons maybe that I will continue to glean from that in my life, and I have to continue to trust my Heavenly Father that even though I felt things that didn't come to pass, which makes zero sense to me in my mind, that at some point in the future I might see clearly. And that's my hope in this, and that I think that this experience will prove to be an analogy for future experiences that we may have. And I know certainly for those 2 years, we looked at the gospel differently, and scriptures that had to do with faith and miracles touched us and taught us a lot during that time that I know that would not have jumped out to us in that same way.
Yeah, and I think what came to my mind there was a time when I screamed at God about it, and why do I need to hurt more? I'm already broken to pieces, and ground into the ground. How can I be broken more, and why? And the thought that came to me was to trust the first time, because there was a lot of times when I would, I've got hope and I've got trust, and then when things didn't go like I thought they should, then that was just quickly, so quickly dashed, cast away. I never had faith in the first place, and then it would and then it would sting really bad, and then I would be mad again. And then there'd be that hope again. I'd be like, oh yeah, things are going how they should be, how I think they should be to make her better, or so she's walking again. And so yes, I have trust now. And then this whole cycle would happen again. She'd plateau and go down, and then I would be gone again. And so that's a lesson in my life that, that when things aren't going or the way that I think they should, because in my mind that's how it's going to work out, if things aren't going, that I still need to trust. And I feel like I do trust, but it's the fear that I let boil in my heart, in my soul. Fear's a terrible thing, but it was I just need to, that was a big lesson for me, is not to let fear boil and just become this huge thing, and to make sure that if it does enter, to cast it out and to look to hope and look to faith. And it's hard, it's really hard for me. That's one thing that's really hard. Josh is really good at, if something comes along, he's just, trust in God. And I do eventually come to that trust, but at first there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of, this isn't going to work out. It doesn't make sense. But so that's one big lesson for me, is to cast out fear and trust the first time, and don't let it go.
Well, I think for me, I've fallen down so many times in my life and been disappointed in my own expectations. I think that the best way that I know to move forward is find out what Heavenly Father wants me to do, and then try and do that, because those times are easier to, just like with Lilli, we already knew that something hard was going to come, so when it came, that was like, for him, Blue, I had a harder time with that. I didn't know why, I didn't know what, and I probably never really gave fully my heart to know what would be best, or I don't know. And we recognize, this is speaking about Blue, we hope that in some way, that others will have other things, whether it's another loss, whether it's an end of relationship, whether it's a change in job or a change in circumstances because of a loss. There are a lot of things where that grief can be double stacked and triple stacked, and I think when Stacy said she wanted to talk about grief upon grief, I thought of Job in the scriptures, who literally had everything stripped from him, his family, his possessions, his friends, his business, everything, his health, all of these things were stripped from him. And in the lesson that we learn from him is that he never turned his heart away, and that we know that he was frustrated, we know that he probably felt anger at times, but his heart was able to trust in what Heavenly Father had in store and in plan for him. And as we see in the scriptures, that he was, in this life, he was blessed 100-fold for those things that he had been taken. He had so many and more restored to him. So.
And there was something else. There's a couple more things that happened that brought me a lot of grief, and I just remember, why, God? Why do I need to hurt more? Why do I? And I.
You're speaking of specifically the foundation, trying to move the foundation forward, and
well, just after working for a year, and we had a big gala after a year after Lilli passed away, and had a big fundraiser, and it was amazing. And we had a meeting afterwards, and I told them to just be open, and they were, and that's what I want them to do. But it wasn't all positive, and the event itself was very awesome, and it was very positive. But it was just
the meeting. You're saying
no, just that I think people were wanting more of a clear vision of what Live Like Lilli was about. And at that point, all I knew was that it was see good, do good, share good, and we're going to spread service. I didn't know, some people have a nonprofit, their daughter dies of cancer, so they're going to have a nonprofit about cancer. Lilli was very kind, and that's kind of a broad thing. And anyways, that was a big blow and a big hit, because I just popped my balloon. I guess I was very deflated, and it was very, very hard, and I guess I developed kind of a fear with moving it forward, but we have moved it forward. But it was just, I guess all I can say is that it's really, really hard. And when you're going through these things, yes, anger will come, despair will come, but as you recognize those things for what they are, and like I said, when they come, to cast them out, and to trust that what's waiting for you and what's meant for you in your life is out there. But it might be a really hard climb to get there. But those things are what's going to make you stronger. And you might be going through grief right now, and I don't feel strong. I don't think I'll ever be strong. But trust me, and right now I look back and I think, wow, how did I even do that? But I know that it's because of my faith in God, and just the people that were around me that, those little moments where someone sends you a text or those things, if you're having a hard time like that, those things are so small, but they lift you this much higher, and that's been amazing.
Yeah, and I can't even really say, I don't know that it's any bit of our faith in him. I think it's really just been, I think it's been the lifting that
Yeah.
has happened from
Totally.
the service that people have done, and the good and the opportunity that I've seen ahead of us, and maybe the desire to spread goodness, that do good, see good, do good, and share good. I can't quite articulate in words. I tried a little bit last time when we were talking about the drops. Pardon? Yeah. But I just sit and think that there's a lot of things, and what hopefully that we can join with people who want to serve, and in honor of those people who have been lost. And the grief upon grief, as I sit and think about it, I like metaphors, and really it's like you have a wound, and then for some reason life brings in salt water or lemon juice or something and is poured onto that wound, and it stings and it burns, and not only does the thing that you're dealing with secondarily hurt, but that initial and that first wound gets re-traumatized, and it boils up, and so then you have that double hurt. So anyway, I don't have much more to say on that.
Yeah. Just remember that Blankets for Babes, keep going with that and spread the word to anyone who wants to be involved. And we will keep you posted on August's service project. We have another mom that wants to get involved, and we'll be sharing her story, and we're excited for next month. So thank you for being here. Love you guys.